For 362 days a year, this is a public park in the middle of the St. Lawrence River. People walk their dogs here. Kids learn to ride bikes here. There's a rowing basin from the 1976 Olympics, a casino at one end, and a beach at the other. But for 72 hours every June, this same stretch of asphalt becomes probably the most profitable square mile in Canada. The Canadian government will spend 99.2 million Canadian dollars keeping this race alive through 2031 and another 115 million Canadian dollars. And economic returns exceed the public investment every single year in a single weekend. Here's what most people don't know. In 2008, Montreal lost this race. Bernie Ecclestone, the man who ran Formula One for 40 years, pulled the plug. Hosting fees were rising, tobacco sponsorship had been banned, and the math no longer worked. For the first time since 1978, the calendar had no Canadian round. Local hotels lost an estimated 40 million Canadian dollars in the months that followed. Restaurants near the circuit reported one of their worst journées. So in 2010, three governments, the City of Montreal, the Province of Quebec, and the Government of Canada, did something almost unprecedented in professional sports. They pooled public money to buy the race back. They've been writing checks ever since, and the checks keep getting bigger. On the surface, this looks like a sports subsidy, a vanity project, the kind of deal politicians usually get punished for at the next election. But the real reason this race exists, the reason three layers of government keep covering the HostMG fee without political backlash, has almost nothing to do with racing. Let's follow the money. The Canadian Grand Prix generates roughly 162 million Canadian dollars in economic activity every year. So where does it actually come from? The obvious money. Ticket sales, about 352,000 fans across 3 days. The average Formula One tourist spends about 900 Canadian dollars per day in Montreal. That's roughly 4 times what a normal Montreal tourist spends. Why? The island geography turns every fan into a consumer for 12 hours at a stretch. Food, drinks, merchandise. There's no Walmart to drive to. There's no cheaper option 3 blocks away. There's just here and now and the prices the vendors set. Think of the Grand Prix as Montreal's economic defibrillator. June used to be the city's quiet tourism month. The ski crowd is gone, the festival season hasn't started, and the weather is still unpredictable. For decades, downtown businesses just survived June. But the in came Formula One, and it transformed Montreal's summers. The Grand Prix doesn't just fill that gap, it shocks the entire summer economy back to life. The race weekend lands most years in early June, and starting in 2026, its annual slot is late May. Within a few weeks, the Jazz Festival starts. Then Just for Laughs. Then the International Fireworks Competition. The GP doesn't stand alone. It's the first domino. It tells the city's hospitality industry, the season is open. Hire the staff, stock the inventory, restock the wine cellars. Get ready. Without it, that domino chain doesn't start the same way. And every business downstream, even ones that have nothing to do with motorsports, feels the difference all summer long. Let's make this concrete. There's a small bistro in Old Montreal. Call it Marie's. 38 seats, run by a family for 22 years. The kind of place that survives on regulars in winter and tourists in summer. Her story is emblematic of the struggles and successes of local vendors. A normal Friday in March, Marie's does about 2,100 Canadian dollars in revenue. Decent. Pays the rent, pays the staff, leaves a little. Friday night of Grand Prix weekend, 11,800 Canadian dollars. Saturday, 14,200 Canadian dollars. Sunday brunch crowd before the race starts, another 9,400 Canadian dollars before noon. In 3 days, Marie's earns more than she does in a typical month. And here's the number that matters. Across the year, the Grand Prix weekend accounts for roughly 30% of her annual profit. Not revenue, profit. Which means Marie doesn't really run a 365-day business. She runs a 72-hour business with 363 days of overhead. Her entire pricing model, her staffing schedule, her wine ordering, all of it bends around one weekend in June. And she's not unusual. Every independent restaurant in the Old Port operates on some version of this math. Now multiply Marie's by every independent restaurant, hotel, retail shop, and tour operator in downtown Montreal. The Quebec government collects a 3.5% hotel tax. That single weekend alone returns about $5 million to provincial coffers just in lodging tax. Add the federal sales tax, the provincial sales tax, the alcohol levies, the parking revenue, the public transit fares. The public money coming out of that weekend dwarfs the public money going in. So when you ask why 3 governments keep spending 115 million Canadian dollars in F1 hosting fees, they're not subsidizing a race. They're buying insurance on an entire downtown economy that's quietly built itself around 72 hours of asphalt every summer. But here's where the story gets interesting going forward. Liberty Media, the American company that bought Formula One in 2017, has been quietly raising hosting fees on every circuit on the calendar. Some races have seen their fees climb 50% in 5 years. Saudi Arabia reportedly pays over $55 million per race. Las Vegas invests $500 million in race infrastructure. And new bidders, South Korea, Thailand, even another race in the United States are circling, willing to outpay traditional hosts. Montreal's contract runs through 2035. After that, nobody knows what the new number looks like. The math that worked in 2010, when fees were a fraction of what they are now, might not survive another renewal cycle. Quebec's Auditor General has already started reviewing the questions in private. Local journalists have started running the numbers in public. And the conversation Montreal has avoided for many years, what if we can't afford this anymore, is starting to surface in places where decisions actually get made. Which leaves the city with a question almost no government wants to answer out loud. What happens if the race that quietly props up your downtown economy becomes the race you can't afford to keep?